It's kind of wild for me to say this on video, but I haven't worked a job for over 7 years now. And this is not something I ever would have thought I would have been in the position of now at this point. I always thought I was going to go to college. I thought I was going, like, I thought I was going to finish college. I thought I was going to get a high paying degree. And I thought I was going to work my ass off for at least 20, 30 years to be in a position to be able to retire at a quote unquote young age. I wanted to try to beat the status quo of retiring at the age of 65, and I wanted to try to retire by the age of 50. And so, me saying, like, I have not worked a job for 7 years blows my mind. And I'm going to kind of break down the story for you guys to hear a little bit. I recorded a video the other day. It was like, I can never work a 9 to 5 job. And, I broke down inside that video to kind of gloss over it real quick, which is that I was trading my time for money. And I had this big, huge realization on a small scale when I was in high school that me working 40 hours a week, I was getting paid like minimum wage at the time. I put in my blood, sweat, and tears, and after putting in 40 hours in a week, I didn't make any more money than any other week where I put in average amount of energy and input into it, and I was putting in the same amount of time, and I was getting the same amount of money out of it. And so the system was pretty messed up there because I did the math, and if I just worked minimum wage, I was going to be in a position where I was going to be barely scraping by. Like I would probably have to have roommates or still live with my parents, and I would nowhere remotely closely be to where I wanted to be in life. Like, cause I knew that I wanted Lamborghinis, I wanted nice things, I wanted to like have a lifestyle, I wanted to have hot girlfriends, and I wanted to be basically James Bond. And I did the math, and it was impossible for me to do that. So I was going to go to school for computer science because that was like the highest paying degree. And now, actually, in the current modern day that we live in now, with the quantity of layoffs, with the amount of weird shit going on in that world of computer programming and software engineering, it's just maybe it would have been the cushy, comfortable job and the comfortable life that everything is kind of like marketed towards in high school, and everyone's saying to go to college. But ultimately, I would have been very dissatisfied. And I'm glad that I realized that at a younger age and sooner. And I'm glad I realized that before being 10, 20 years into my career, realizing that that wasn't for me. And so 7 years ago, was in college. I got a sales job, and I started making money based off of my skill set over my time. And doing that and actually starting to make money based off of the quality of my skill set over how many hours I worked really rewired my brain to realize how I would much rather want to be in a position to where my income is unattached to the amount of hours that I work, to the quantity of time that I was putting in, and instead attached to something like a skill set or assets or leverage. And so I started to realize this thing called leverage at a young age. And I'm glad that I realized it, like I said, at the age of like 18 instead of the age of 30. Now, these days, there's like freaking 12-year-olds that are making $50,000 a month, and it's mind-blowing. But I digress. And so me realizing, like after realizing that trading time for money creates in no way, shape, or form leverage, and even at a greater scale, let's say you even have like a doctor's salary of $300,000 a year or something like that, $500,000 a year. I have some students that they make that. And after talking with them, they tell me it's like all not cut out to what most people think it is. Yeah, they make a ton of money, but they have no actual freedom in life. And it's really just, it's setting it up so, maybe once they're around 40, they can kind of coast a bit more in life. And then around 50, 60, they're kind of retired and living like a decent life and finally living that life of freedom. And I realized that, like, I want to live freedom now. Like, why wait 50 years? Like, what if I don't even make it to the age of 72? Like, have you ever thought about that? What if you don't even make it to the age of retirement? You just work like 20 years, get to the age of 40, and you die. You never got to enjoy any of that freedom. You never got to enjoy any of the moments in life. Like, I was just listening to this podcast the other day about this guy. He like coaches billionaires, and he tells a story about how there was this one billionaire that he was working with that he found out that he was like the CEO of some big company, some Fortune 500 company. And he found out after going to a routine checkup at his doctor, he was sitting in the waiting room, and he saw the expression on his doctor's face that nobody ever wants to see from their doctor. The doctor came in, told him, "You have brain cancer, and it's at a stage to where we can't even treat it. You have 90 days left to live." And this guy had all the accolades. He worked his way up. Like, did the thing. He was in the highest level of the entire ladder. Like, this guy was making millions of dollars a year, living the quote unquote life, as in he had the income. But what he realized in this 90 days, and he ended up actually dying just around 90 days after this conversation that he had with his doctor, he realized that he never took his wife out to lunch. He realized that he never made any actual memories in life. He realized that he didn't do anything that was worth remembering other than the work experience and the work that he provided to his company. Other than that, he had no personal experience. He created no memories to take with him for the rest of his life, or whatever you believe in. He created no memories for those around him and the people that were important to him. And he realized this. And in the 90 days, he juiced out as much life as he possibly could in those 90 days. He mapped out what were all the things that were on his bucket list, and he did all of those things. He had the money. He did all the things to kind of be in that position. And he realized that life was, like, especially for him at that point, life was short. He was in his like early 50s. And even though this guy is in this epitome of success, that happens far too often, where people die young. And the system is built for us to live a long life, or it's built for us to live over the age of 70. And if you really think about it, there's not that much enjoyment that we're even going to get out of our money, because the amount of energy that we actually have at that point in our life, the amount of time, like, we have all the time, we have all the money, but we don't have the energy, we don't have the spirit, we don't have that same exact drive that we did when we were younger. And so I realized, or at least as soon as I found that there were ways to make money that was detached from trading time for money, and as soon as I realized that there are ways to grow your income that is dependent on your skill sets and the leverage that you create as a person and as a human being, and then also that you can make money from anywhere in the world as long as you have a laptop and an internet connection, I realized that the system doesn't make any sense, especially the fact that people can do that at scale, and there's so many people that are able to do that. I know that hundreds of thousands of people are able to do this. Just on YouTube alone, there's over 450,000 YouTube channels with over 100,000 subscribers. That's just on YouTube, let alone the amount of business owners, the amount of contractors, the amount of agencies, the amount of e-commerce stores. The list goes on. There is way too many ways and too many case studies and too many proofs of success for me, I realized at the time, or us, to trade time for money for a life that's short-lived, and especially at a company that doesn't even give a shit about you. Like, they don't care about you. As soon as you leave, they're going to go replace you with somebody else at these companies. You're just a number to them. Unless you're, maybe one of the higher ups, like number 10 at Facebook or something like that. You don't matter. No one gives a fuck about you. And that's the sad truth of it. The amount of people I talk to that work like these prestigious jobs and these prestigious degrees in this position now that I am, with helping so many people build financial success with YouTube channels, is mind-blowing to me just how depressing it all is. Like, I've talked to one girl, she was a scientist, and she was making, I think, like pharmaceuticals, and she was just a number to them. Like, it was a freaking prison. It sounded like talking to this girl. Like, they would, anytime the bell would ring, she had to go be wherever they needed her to be. Would have like 15-minute smoke breaks to the dot. Whenever the alarm would go off or the bell would go off, they could go do the smoke break, and then they'd be back in exactly 15 minutes, or else they were going to get docked. And if they got docked too much, instead of failing the class like you do in school, they'd fire you. They let you go. And she got to where she started making like $10,000 a month with her YouTube channel. And I remember she told me the story of, she went to her boss, or like she was working, and everyone was starting to get jealous, insecure that she was like on her free time, she was building her YouTube channels. And it started to position things into a place where there was all this animosity, all this hate, all this greed, all this jealousy at this work. And she said it smelled like garbage. It smelled like a sewer at this place. And this was like, she had a prestigious degree. She was making good money. Yet her boss was being an asshole. And she, like, if she didn't have this money, she would have been stuck there. She would have had to obey. She would have had to be obedient. She would have had to say, yes, boss, I'm going to, like, this is unsatisfactory. I will do better. But because she was in a place where she was making $10,000 a month for herself, she was able to say, you know what? Instead of being rude, or instead of being disrespectful, I quit, but instead of being disrespectful or just leaving you guys, I'll put you in my 2 weeks. And they said, no, you don't get to quit. You're fired. I think they were hoping that that was going to teach her a lesson and that that was going to change her mindset and change her beliefs. But actually now she's actually making more money than she was at her previous job, even months after that she left. And I am so glad that I haven't had to work a job. How have I done it? I guess that's one part I haven't jumped into in this video. I got kind of a little bit carried away there into the storytelling for you guys, which is how I did it. Is I just always found a way. So at first it was like real estate, and then I was basically like a fucking cockroach. If I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I ran out of money maybe like 50 times, 70 times or so, but I always found a way to make more money. I always found a way to sell a product. I always found a way to get more views and to get more ad revenue. I always found a way to buy more time when it came to paying for my rent. I always found a way to make things work along the journey. And so what did I do in the process is I set myself up in a vehicle that had massive amounts of leverage, and it was allowing me to have a huge income potential that allowed me to ultimately live this dream life that I really wanted. And so what are the things that I did? I started off with like real estate wholesaling. I did that for a bit. I made $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 with it. Nothing too crazy. And then I started doing YouTube, and I started doing a YouTube channel. It's called Real Estate University now. It used to be called Canup. And I did that. I got to like 13,000 subscribers with it. I got to where I was making $3,000-$4,000 a month with it, and it was able to pay all my bills. And that's what's cool is I didn't really like, you don't need that much money to sustain a lifestyle for most people, as long as you're not living in Los Angeles or any major city. $3,000-$4,000 a month can get you by. Like I was living in Idaho, like outside of Boise. It was pretty cheap there. Like rent, I think it was like $1,100 a month, and food, it was pretty cheap because I didn't have Whole Foods or any of those expensive grocery stores that I could go to, or you just always shop at cheaper places. And so I had a pretty cheap lifestyle. I was making $3,000-$4,000 a month, and then I discovered Faceless YouTube channels. I was able to scale that to make where I was making $40,000 a month. Basically, the key there, just to give you guys a little hack, because this video isn't like the how to make money video. This is just I haven't worked the job for 7 years video, but the hack for it, for those of you that are like, Devin never gives value, he never teaches me anything. The key is you want to find other people that are making what you want to make, $10, $20, $30, $50,000 a month, and you want to emulate what they're doing. And then when you get to where when you're having the success that other people are having, then you can start to kind of create your own success and create your own strategy and create your own game plan. The main thing is you want to ad-lib content. That's what Mr. Beast does. That's what Eric does. That's what Alex Ramosi does. That's what everybody does. Nobody's original on YouTube. All they really do is they just templatize the formatting, they templatize the content, and then they plug in new keywords. There you go. That's how you make millions of dollars with YouTube. But anyways, I did Faceless YouTube channels, and then I scaled out to doing info products, and I've been doing both for the past good amount of while. Generally speaking, my income is typically 30-40% from my YouTube channels, and then it's usually 60-70% from the info products. Why? Because it's a lot harder to get Faceless YouTube channels to $100,000 a month versus info products. It's pretty common that people are making like $2 to $4 million a month with info products. There's a good amount of people out there doing it. So to make a few $100,000 a month is not that crazy with an info product. So that's what I did. That's how I was able to get to that. But anyways, so I just always found a way to make money. I would find some sort of product to sell. I'd come up with a product to sell. I would make videos. Like anytime that I would hit this kind of like rock bottom or this place where I like ran out of money, it would like kick myself into high gear, and I would go like I would just find some new superhuman version of myself that was capable of doing so much more than I ever realized. And so throughout those 7 years, it was not easy. It was not a freaking walk in the park by any means. But what I will say is I lived so much life in those 7 years. In those 7 years that I lived, I probably lived at least 5 to 10 years in each one of those years. And that is because, I don't have to deal with any of the bullshit most of you guys that have to work a job have to deal with. I didn't have to go sit in traffic. I didn't have to go waste 8 hours a day doing fucking paperwork or whatever the hell you guys do at work. Whatever bullshit administrative stuff you have to do there. I don't have to do any of that stuff. I don't have to clean my house. I don't have to cook food. I don't have to do really any of that stuff that most of you guys have to do. And so just in that time, like the time sake that I had, that wasn't towards bullshit, was just, I just had so much more time. I had so much more availability. I could do so much more with my life. And then on stack that with the amount of experiences that I had traveling to Bali, Indonesia, traveling to Colombia, to Costa Rica, to doing a tour in Europe for like a month and a half. I was supposed to go there for a week. I stayed for a month and a half because I could. And just in those 7 years, like I lived so much life. My goal is by the time I'm 40, I've lived like 1,000 lifetimes of the average person. That's my goal. I want to fill my life with experiences. I want to have worldly wisdom to become somebody that's so highly leveraged and so highly skilled that I am able to change people's lives without me even realizing it. Kind of like how I am doing in these videos, but at a greater and larger scale. And so that's the thing. I realized that the scoring system doesn't match the employee system. Like how money works, it's like the game's all screwed up. Either you could go trade your time for money, which is kind of how it's built, but any of these people that are like ultra high net worth or actually wealthy, they don't do any of that shit. They build assets, they build leverage, they position themselves in a way to where they're able to make money based off of other things, not their time. Their time has no association with the amount of money they make. Their money that they make is in association with the skill sets that they have, with the network that they have, with the labor that they have, with the resources that they have. They're able to make a ton of money, and that's why the game is broken. Because now, gone are the days where that was only accessible to the select few. Now it's accessible to anybody with platforms like YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or Shopify or Amazon or Facebook. Everything's democratized now. Like anybody can access leverage. Anybody can access distribution. Like literally I'm making this video and I upload it from my freaking iPhone. And I have zero production budget for this other than whatever it costs to buy my iPhone to make these videos and my laptop to just upload it. But I don't even need the laptop. I could do it from my phone. It's just, you can do it. Like anybody has access to leverage now these days. And that's the crazy thing. The college educational system was built in a way where it was like, you are to become a great employee, to become a great worker, aka the S word. I'm not going to say that because I don't want to get flagged on YouTube specifically or social media platforms, but that's what it's built for, is just a flashy, luxurious S word. And so I realized that pretty quickly. I realized that at a young age. Honestly, it messed me up for a pretty long time. Because everybody around me told me that I needed to go to college, that I needed to get a degree, that I needed to work my life for 40 years, then I can retire for 7 years and die. That's what everybody told me. And at a young age, I realized that that's not the truth. Whereas everybody around me told me otherwise. It's different when you grow up wealthy. It's different when you grow up rich. Because everyone, like, they don't believe in the system. Like, they know it's a system, they know it's a game, and they don't play the game at all. They play a completely different game. And I realized it at a young age that it was all ultimately a game. Whereas everybody was telling me that it wasn't, that it was the only way to do things. And you just have to save up so then you'd have a less shittier jail cell, essentially. And so I realized I didn't want that. I stuck a flag in the ground, metaphorically, and said I will do whatever it takes to live that lifestyle and to become whatever I want to be in life. And so I dropped out of college. I decided to never work a job ever again in my life. And I told myself I will do whatever it takes to never have to work a job ever again. And even if that means I have to be embarrassed, even if that means I have to do things that are out of my comfort zone, even if that means that I have to do things that I don't even think are possible, and even if that means I just have to trust the process and trust the system sometimes, or trust the business, trust the vehicle, trust those that have been there where I want to be, trust the mentors, and just put myself out there and just do the work. As long as I'm not doing anything unethical or illegal, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And that decision put me up into a position to where today I'm able to make millions of dollars a year. I'm able to live my dream life. I'm able to travel the world. I'm able to do exactly what I want. And I want that for you too. That's why I'm making this video. So hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe. See you in the next one.